Dann freue ich mich heute Abend, dass wir ein volles Haus haben, wirklich. Wir sind ausgebucht, wir durften ja auch sowieso nur weniger zulassen. Aber auch dass ihr alle da seid, ja, that's wonderful. The evening is a bit it's in 2 languages, so that you just know that both architects will do their lectures in English and the students in German, and the discussion afterwards will have in English, but you can also ask your questions in German. We are doing an international platform, so we are a bit mixed today, and I think it's all right. If you have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask. Ganz kurz muss ich etwas durchgeben. Da wir jetzt etwas über 50 Personen sind, müssen wir Folgendes einhalten. Wir müssen mit Maske am Platz sitzen. In allen öffentlichen Bereichen im Haus müssen wir auch Maske tragen. Aber beim Essen und Trinken entfällt die Maskenpflicht. Es ist so, wie es ist. Damit muss ich auch meine Pflicht erledigen. Well, but now officially, a warm welcome to you all. Good evening and welcome to the Creative Days, which have been postponed due to the pandemic situation, but we can now take place, and we are happy that we can do it in, natura and not online. Especially, we are happy to have Shimul with us. It was an odyssey to get you here this year. Last year, Rupali couldn't make it, but you managed it, and it's great that you are here. So, even postponed Creative Days, we used the in-between time to produce 2 short films. The second short film this year is with the architect Rohan Shivkumar. He gives a wonderful insight into Mumbai and his thinking and his work as a teacher. So just go to our YouTube channel, Creative Days, and you can watch it. So this event can only take place because we have supporters and partners. And please give them a big hand. Now I would like to welcome the architects. Shimul, Javeri, Kadri, SJK Architects from Mumbai. A warm welcome to you. Thorsten Kock from Pecha Kucha Architekten from Stuttgart. A warm welcome to you. And our youngsters, Sophie Eitner, I will just tell you more about her. Noah Schröder, Christine von Raven, who will perform in Pecha Kucha Lectures and give us their ideas and work on the future of cities. A warm welcome to you. And for Sophie Eitner's Professor Dieter today here. Unfortunately, Sophie Eitner, on her way from Darmstadt to Stuttgart, she was not feeling well, and she is on the way to the hospital, and we give her all our well wishes that she gets well soon. So thank you for coming for her. And I would like to give a warm welcome to the head of the Indian Honorary Consulate, Mrs. Dobridge. A warm welcome to you. Then I'm glad to see 2 of our advisory board members. This is Professor Klaus-Jan Philipp from the Universität Stuttgart. A warm welcome to you. And Elke Gregory, where are you? Elke? Oh, in the back. Okay, all right. She's the second one, 2 of 5. And a warm welcome to you, Ellie. Let me just first introduce you to our background as Poonam Designer Studio, since we have founded the Creative Days. Me and my partner, Martin Bargiel. Where's my partner? Martin? Ah, here. Okay, all right. Founded the studio in 1994, and since then our interdisciplinary studio shifted its work from textile and product design, communication design, to product interior design, visual communications, research, installations, curation, and events. And from the beginning with us, now Ravi, it's your turn. Our son Ravi, are you somewhere here? Supporting us with his input and everything. He's also studying now architecture, so it's great. It's like a family business now. We work across the disciplines and intercultural. We think local and global, and we think in context. And we love the slogan by Eliel Saarinen, who said it perfectly: always design a thing by considering it in its larger context. A chair in a room in a house in an environment in a city plan. What drives us? Our passion for interdisciplinary design projects and our never-ending curiosity towards another cultures. We believe in a holistic way of looking at design and architecture. And for this, we have founded the Creative Days in 2016, a platform, interdisciplinary and international, giving design, architecture, and urban planning a platform for exchange, networking, and presenting out-of-the-box projects and people. This platform consists of a symposium and different events which explore design and architecture on different locations in Stuttgart. Usually it takes place in July during the Indian Summer Week, and as I said, we are delayed this year. One of the guest countries is India because of the town twinning between Stuttgart and Mumbai. And of course, being an Indian, I'm very much interested, and also being a German-Indian couple, thinking about what is happening in India, and it is a lot happening in India. And they're really doing amazing work. And it's not only about yoga and Ayurveda, which comes here to Germany, it is more than this. And this we want to show here and present outstanding designers and architects and bring them in exchange with local makers. We start the Creative Days with a warm-up event, Open Atelier, where we visit a creative office in Stuttgart, which took place last Friday at Ippolito Flights. This was also fully booked, and we had a wonderful evening with an insight by Peter Ippolito about their work, and we could get a glimpse of their working space, how they work, and it was really great. And they had their samosas and wine in the evening, and we had a really wonderful get-together. At the symposium itself, we have the task of the future of cities, and there are lectures by local and international designers, architects, urban planners, thinkers, and youngsters who talk about sustainable design and the challenges of the conurbations for the future of cities. And as you can see, can you do the next, the symposium? As you can see, we had already quite a few well-known architects as speakers from Mumbai and from here local ones. But it is not only about this that we have the guests and they come and go. It's more than this. We show them Stuttgart, and Stuttgart is a nice place because we noticed last Friday that people skip Stuttgart and go to Frankfurt or Munich and not come to Stuttgart. So we have to do something more about that. And on return, we visited 2018. We went to Mumbai, and we had the chance to visit some architects, and they showed us Mumbai, they showed us Ahmedabad, and it was really great to get an insight there from who lived there. And yeah, so this is like a special relationship with them because we show them here Stuttgart, and then we go there and we spend quite a 3-4 days together. So when we talk about cities, I would like to know from you, what do you think first? You can take your mask up and say something. I would like to get a glimpse. What do you think of, when you think of a city, what do you think first? Think you of problems? Do you think of anything else? I think you can take the mask off and then just say, because it would be nice. I didn't get it, sorry? Traffic. Okay, more?
People.
People?
Community.
We also start thinking of good places, good design, architecture, but we forget sometimes to talk about the movement of the people in the cities. And the big question remains, like the Venice Biennale asks, how will we live together? I'm asking, how will we move through a city in future? Charles Montgomery writes in his book, not only the city shapes the way we move, but our movements share the city in return. The question is just, do we need driverless cars? That means you are sitting in a car and you are more than ever neglecting the environment because the driving does not need any attention and you can look into your mobile or work on your laptop. That is the dark side of the driverless cars. So the movement through a city is an important task. It does not only need an analysis how far the different locations are, it needs a research how people walk through the city, what they do, at what time, and where they work. The idea of a 15-minute city by an article at Arub is a quite desirable wish. In London, for example, they investigated that one needs an average of 23.5 minutes to reach all essential amenities, such as parks and shops. In Berlin, one needs 16 minutes. In Milan, 13.1. So we have this year's theme, Beyond Architecture, and that means for us looking at the physical, not only at the physical space, but also looking at human behavior, attitudes, emotions, motivations. We have to talk about good design, good architecture, good landscapes, and about different cultures, how they can live together, and how we can survive in cities in times of rising prices for housing. So we should act as city makers, working in an interdisciplinary team, creating concepts with different kinds of spaces for community hubs, including the way of moving through the city and so making urban life enjoyable for everybody. For this, we have invited our speakers and the youngsters to show us their work, ideas and visions for the future of cities. So we will start with the lectures. After that, we will have a short discussion. Then you may ask questions. After that, we will enjoy Indian snacks and wine. And now I would like to introduce you shortly to the architects of today. Thorsten Kock is born 1966 in Gingen an der Brenz. He completed an apprenticeship as a carpenter from 1985 to 1987. He then studied architecture at the University of Stuttgart and the Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta from 1987 to 1995. And Wolf Architekten from 1998 to 2000 in Stuttgart. He founded the office Bez and Koch Architekten in Stuttgart together with Martin Betz in 2001. From 2004 to 2007, he had a lectureship at the University of Stuttgart with Thomas Jocher and Arno Lederer. Since 2010, he has been teaching at the universities of Stuttgart University of Applied Sciences with Tobias Wolf. He has been a member of the Architectural Advisory Board for the city of Nürtingen since 2018 and for the city of Offenbach am Main since 2020. He is a member of the Bund Deutscher Architekten Baden-Württemberg and has been a competition jury member since 2010. Shimul Javeri Kadri founded and nurtured SJK Architects towards its current avatar as a firm that values culture and climate and builds gently in the context. The firm has won several awards nationally and internationally, including the World Architecture Festival Award for the Nirvana Films building in Bangalore and the Prix Versailles Award for the Dasavatara Hotel in Tripati. She pursues several causes, building naturally and lightly, and supporting equality through education and feminism. She is a trustee for Save the Children, India, and for Akshara, where she has been actively steering education and women-oriented projects. She's also on the advisory committee on gender for the MCGM. The added responsibilities as an occasional writer, jurist, speaker, and teacher are the outcome of her overwhelming desire to present, engage, and discuss her passions and concerns of 30 years of practice. And now I would like to ask Thorsten Kock and to give us his lecture. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for having me tonight here and inviting me to this lecture. I must admit that the title of the lecture that you gave to me was quite challenging for us as architects. Certainly as architects we have to have a position towards the city. We have to approach a project via the city, but we are not city planners, and in that sense there's not so much, or not at the first point, a vision for the future city. And I will try to explain this a little more in the first part, and in the second part, based on that, what I try to explain a few projects, how they relate to what I explained first. And I will try to do it with Luigi Snozzi. He will guide us through the lecture a little bit. We adore him because he, in a way, is an architect, was an architect, we have to say, who works in a similar position, and I think in a similar approach towards city and towards building. He is not the classical city planner, but he also is not only architect. And he's illiterate a little bit. We are not so much literates, but he is, and he did his aphorism that you may know, and every intervention causes destruction. Destroy with understanding. That is something he claimed. And if you're looking at current city design or something, or city plan, or even visions, this is somehow a vision, although it is in real. Meanwhile, I think this is some vision, and this is a vision that is somehow godlike, and it's a perfect form, and it's a perfect shape. But I think it does not include the entire scope of how people live. And you may even see he live in style and comfort. That's the advertising of something like that. That is not necessarily the kind of city we hope for. And I think the experience of, for example, Brasilia, which is a city that was planned, is a planned structure from its very beginning. From this we know that a structure that is planned from its beginning and carried out in that way, in the way it is planned, we know that this is somehow working, but it is not something where people say, "Oh, this is a city where we like to live." That is not a city that is lively, that is interesting, except for its outstanding punctual architecture. But I think as a city, it is very much of a problem. And other cities that start from a very clear plan, from a center, this is a screen. This is a screen, meaning the point doesn't work here, right? So I have to. You think it doesn't matter? There's no point here. No? Here's a point. Here's no point. Good. Okay. Do we have a mouse?
The pointer works. You just saw it.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Where do I have to stand that I see it?
No.
But yeah, it's hard to point somewhere where you don't see where the point is. I mean, I don't see the point. Okay, so anyhow. You see the castle, right? The castle was the center of this planning, of this urban planning. And it started out with this radial system, and it was carried out up to a certain point. And from this point onwards, the city was starting to grow. It was no longer a systematic scheme that was set into reality, but the city was starting to grow. And this is something that is different from just the master plan that is carried out through all time. And this is something that is working better, as far as I can see. And we, on the other hand, we have, that's sort of the other way around. Here we have a city that from its beginning, now again I have this problem here. I mean, you see the city center, don't you? You see where the city center is. So this city did not start with planning, but it started with growth. There was something interesting in the way the shore is shaped. There was something that made people going there and finding a city. So, and then the ensanche, you know, this is Barcelona, in the 1890s, I think, or something. There was this structure imposed there. But this is something in its scale, I think, that is a very rare example that a planning in this big scale really works, and the city is really happy with this area. But still, there is something about growth in the middle, and there is something about planning in the outskirts, and the city even developed further, and then again it started to grow. So it's not about a city that is planned in its entirety, but it has certain quarters that are either just growing by chance, by accident, or they have planned quarters which continue the city. And then there's something in the city which is, well, palimpsest. So it's the constant overwriting of an existing area, of the existing ground. And this is something I think is the most important thing also for the future of the city. We have to know that everything we are doing is not the end of the development. It's just a part of something that will continue to develop itself, so to speak. It's not that we are the masters of the scene in a way. And I found in Ulm, which is close to Gingen an der Brenz, where I come from, I found in Ulm quite a neat example. The Münsterplatz, you all know the Ulmer Münster, not in this, not with this tower. That's the tower up until the 1870s, when the Ulm city decided to build the highest church tower in the world, and only after that the final tower occurred. That's the way the church appeared, like for 500 years or something. They started in 1371. But the thing is, look at this Münsterplatz. To the left, you see that there is this sort of cloister area with a little small church to it. So there was a sort of a framing of this Münsterplatz. Then they tore down this Barfüßerkloster in 1878. And for a long time, the Münsterplatz was empty. There were like little kiosks or a bus stop or something like that. But for, I think, something like 80 years or 106 competitions, they discussed and tried to find out what to do with the Münsterplatz. And only in 1986, Richard Meyer won the thing that was finally built. And so at this point, you can, I think, easily say that we have constantly overwritten this Münsterplatz with different buildings, and so we are only part of something that is continuing. And Edmund Bacon, in his Design of the Cities, invented or described this as the principle of the second man. So if you are working in the city, you have to see that you are part of a development, and you have to read the entire scenery. You have to try to find out what is there. You have to try to understand what perhaps your predecessor meant. You have to judge what he or she did, and find your own approach, your own opinion towards that, if you how you develop this further. And Michelangelo, at this point, he found the Palais des Sénateurs in the north, and he found to the right the building. But to the left, he found not the building that is now making this perfect symmetry, but the other one, the other church building, which is at this odd angle there. And he found, I put in this symmetrical order, so he accepted in a way what he had, or what he found. He judged to the left that this is not a good thing, and so he put in to the right just a new facade, not a new building, just a new facade, and to the left a new building that made him achieve this perfect square, and so find an appropriate place for the town hall of the city of Rome. And this principle of the second man, that is something that is very sympathetic to me, and this is something that we do in our work. And if we're going back to Luigi Snozzi, he, in his words, I would say this is before designing a building, reflect the city. Now, how do we reflect the city? When we had to build the Musikforum in Bochum, there's this triangled relationship between the station to the right, the upper left, the town hall, and to the bottom left, the siting of the city, of the concert hall, of the future concert hall. And please remember this red line being the Victoriastraße, a very important street, obviously linking the concert hall to the city center, but a very important street within the city. Now we have this objet trouvé, a church that has to be extended, that wants to be part of a future concert hall. Certainly the church was no longer, at the time already, no longer used as a church, but as a trainings area for young people. Now, how do we put this into urban scale? The church being there, we decided, okay, we have the main geometry of the church, the length of the church being the width of our new building. So it turns out that the church is fully integrated. And it turns out, the red lines showing this, that the main facade of the building is stepping back a few meters, opening up a situation for an entrance plaza, and this entrance plaza governed by the former choir, now being the entrance of the concert hall. And if you look at the plan, you realize the former entrance of the church was at the other side. That is clear for everybody who is familiar with churches. The entrance was on the other side. So there was this little discussion. Is it appropriate to put the entrance at the choir? Because you never, ever have an entrance at a choir. But this church no longer is a church. So I think this, the meaning of the liturgy, the meaning is no longer there. And if you think a little further back in history, you will find that this type of building was not invented as a church, but it was invented as a market hall in Rome, for example. And so I think there is a way of dealing with that, and certainly the entrance is on this side because the Main Street, Victoria Street, is on this side. So we have to put this building and the new structure into the system of the existing city. So it turns out to be a silhouette where the new masses respect the church. They are lower than the church ceiling, and they respect with their distance, with their seams, the volume of the actual church building. So in a way, there's the first man, to come back to the principle of the second man. The first man, he sets the theme with the existing church, and we have to add onto it, perhaps define the second theme to make it a unified building. The space interior is about the composition of highs and lows, and other lows, and another high, which is the concert hall. And in section, you see this creation of a spatial topography that is linked to the level of the city, which is the church level, right, and digs a little bit into it, into the ground, which is then the stage level, and also goes up to have the proper volume for the hall. And now Bochum, being a creation of spatial topography, the museum in Arnsberg is a dealing with a found topography. So that is something different, because in this case, I think the topography was the most decisive circumstance that was influencing the design. Where is it? Here it is. And certainly the entrance is to the left in the old part of the building. So if you have to go all the way down, it's like 25 meters. There is certainly an important path going through the building. But it's not only the building at its interior, but also the exterior, the sculpture of the building, the form of the building enables and emphasizes existing paths that are in the city, that are leading from the top of the hill, which is on the top of the picture, to the bottom of the hill, which is on the bottom side of the picture. And so the building finally shows, you see the stairs, you see the path going in the back of the building, you see other stairs, and you also see like this bridge motif, which is not only due to the staircase and to the connection of the building, but also to this promenade, which goes underneath this building bridge, where this person is just walking. And the other aspect of dealing with this found topography is the view, certainly. So if you enter this building from the city side, it is very harmless, this old one. You wouldn't even think of this huge slope that is coming behind the building. And so this makes up for a somewhat spectacular view. So if you see here in the middle, you see this main street, and that is on top of the hill. It's like a flat surface on top of the hill. It's like a medieval castle or something. Here it's the city center, and here is our building. And we stand in this city center. It's more or less flat. It's a little sloping going towards north, but you wouldn't imagine this slope. You turn right and you're in front of the museum. That's the main entrance of the museum. And you go through it and you have this view all over the valley. And that is one of the main things that are interesting in dealing with this topography at this point. The next thing is how this sculpture works in the city, in city plan and spatially. In 3D, the sculpture, I think, is a very, looks somehow arty and somehow as a voluntary act done by somebody. But it is very closely tied to the street, for example, to the existing direction of the old thing. And so you see that it opens a little square down there relating to these somehow oddly twisted buildings. And you also see that it makes a sculpture from relating itself to the city and the existing sightlines. Now, two projects real quick, two new ones that are not even projects yet. We won those competitions, first prize, followed by 2 third prizes. So we're very hopeful that we may eventually build it. But we still don't know. But still, they are interesting in the sense that we work in Berlin at the Schloss Charlottenburg. Now, Schloss Charlottenburg certainly is a listed monument, but it's not listed because it's such an original Baroque structure and a Baroque facade or something, because it was terribly destroyed in World War II, as you can see here. Now it looks like this, and the thing why it's listed is because the was heißt Wiederaufbau? Thank you. The reconstruction. The reconstruction of the house was done in the 50s. It was done in the 50s because West Berlin lacked and still lacks important buildings. All the important buildings, like Unter den Linden, so the museum island, the Red Town Hall, all these things are in the eastern part. And Schloss Charlottenburg was one of the few, very few, that are in the western part. So it was very important for them to rebuild this in the 50s, rebuild this very soon, just to bring up a point of identification, which again is something that I think is very important to a city, to have monuments, to have points of identification. And it is listed because of it, because it's a reconstruction under the in the 50s, where the means, the money, and all these things were not so rich that you could do a reconstruction by the picture. You just sort of try to find out what is initial, what is important, and you did not reconstruct it in every single detail. And that, I thought, is a very interesting notion of listing monuments. And now, how do we deal with that if we have to add something to this structure? You can see, I think, to the left, this is our given site. It is pretty much as rectangular as the building, and it's pretty much that size. So everybody in the competition did, like, I mean, more or less the same site plan. So what is it? It is the picture. It's the image that you think of. How can we extend such a castle building? And since it's a completely, it's a visitor center, so it does not really have to do with a castle as a function. It's just to house and inform people. We thought it's just an adjacent building. It's just like an orangerie, for example. And so we thought, okay, perhaps this is a picture we could work with rather than do it from its functional things. It's a coffee shop. It's a little bit of ticketing, and so the function is not so much design relevant in this case. So we thought an orangerie may be interesting. And the other thing was that we have in Preußen, they had this Kappendecken. So we thought the interesting thing about it should be the construction. And the construction is a little more, it transports the image. And this is, I think, the important thing to this. So you see these vaults on the ceiling, and this is really the vaulted ceiling that will be the main construction type of this building. The other one, that's the most recent one we could win, is the Documentation and Cultural Center in Heidelberg for the Sinti and Roma. Now here we have an entire city that is a monument, and that is in itself listed. And we have a very delicate site at this point where it starts to slope towards the castle, which is to the right, and I think is well known. And so the thing is, how do we put in there a fairly big mass? Certainly, if you have a client, usually the client wants to have a big mass on a small piece of land. So how do we deal with that, especially in this old and very delicate city setting? As you can see to the left, there is a little bit of an existing structure that we have to add onto, but the main thing is to come up with a new building, and how can this building now deal with the city and give something back to the city. And we decided, although it seems very evident, we were the only ones to decide to do this front plaza from the tip of the triangle, to do this front plaza and design the entry from this position. And although to us it seems very clear, nobody else did it, and apparently they told us that was a main part of the match-winning argument. Going up one floor, we can see one more thing that is, I think, important. That's how to deal with an existing structure. You can see that there is the idea of a cloister again. I can't see this point. Anyway, you see this hall type thing in the middle. That is conceived of more as a courtyard than really a hall, although they want to have it as a hall. But I think it is more a hollow than an actual positive space. And around this hollow you have the hallways that go all the way, and so we have an interconnection between the old and the new building. And the building, the massing of the building, then I think you can see to the right here with this existing white building and the two windows facing us. That is something you see again how this building itself in a way subordinates the existing structure. It respects the roof line and then opens up a terrace even on top to again give something back to the city and also receive something from the city for the people who are in there. And so we were very happy to win this competition, and we will see how it turns out. This is just an image of one of these interior spaces, the museum spaces that we are facing. And my conclusion, I think, in terms of how we deal with the city, I would say one should try to avoid vanity. This is Saalgasse in Frankfurt. That, for me, I saw this, I met this, I visited this like 20 or 22 years ago, and I was amazed. These were all the architects who did not win the competition for the museum. That is on the back side of this thing. And all these architects were invited to build a house as a Trostpreis in a Saalgasse. And now everybody tried to do his best. And now this is what comes out. And I think this is not city. And this is, if you're building in the city, we have to be a little bit modest and a little bit thinking of the entirety and not so much about our individual, how do we say that? Our individual ideas, visions, perfect. The other is, I think we should be authentic, and this is not authentic, you all know this. I think has been much discussion about it. I think we should be authentic, and we should try to look like we have always been there. And the only reason I dare to show a picture of us at this point is because the chair of the jury who put us on first place for this project at its inauguration came to us and said, "It looks like it has always been there." And this was the best compliment he could ever make to us. We were very pleased about that. And to end with Luigi Snozzi, there is nothing to invent. Everything is reinvention. Thank you very much.